Guys, so today we're going to be explaining demand in IB economics. So this is starting section 2, which is actually unit 2, which is microeconomics. So we have section 2.1 demand, so we're going to be explaining it. So basically, the demand curve explains the willingness and ability. So we have two keywords, willingness and ability of a consumer to purchase a good at various prices. So again, it depends on the price. The price is a determining factor, right? So keywords. Keyword 1 is willingness, and keyword 2 is ability, okay? So here we have the demand curve. So as we can see, it is downward sloping. Why? Because there is a, so basically there is a negative correlation between price and quantity per period. So price period and quantity per period, meaning that the higher the price is, the lower the quantity per period is. That's why at 10, the quantity per period is 5,000, but at 20, the quantity per period is 3,000. So you can see that there is it is negative sloping, okay? So there is a negative correlation between price and quantity per period, okay? So the market demand curve is the sum of the quantity demanded by all consumers in the market at each price. Okay, so meaning that basically, like we said, there's something called the market demand curve, meaning it's just the sum of the quantity demanded by all consumers. Okay, so basically just the whole market. So they're just saying that it's basically the entire market. That's it. It's like not something you really have to think about or really, just spend time thinking about. That's really it. So the demand for the price is influenced by two things: the price itself, okay? So a change in the price of the good changes the quantity demanded. So change in price changes the quantity demanded, ceteris paribus, okay? So when the price changes, the quantity demanded changes. But also keep in mind that there are non-price determinants of demand, meaning that they are a change in non-price determinant of demand, which causes a shift, okay? Very important, because you have the price. So basically you have the price and the non-price determinant of demand. So it's stuff other than the price, right? So when the price changes, we know that points on the curve change, okay? So you have these points on the curves, they end up changing, right? So the position. But when you have a non-price determinant of demand, what happens is that the curve itself, it begins to shift, okay? So it either shifts to the right, okay, or it shifts. I'm gonna actually change the color. So it either shifts to the right or it shifts to the left. Okay, so it can shift rightwards or leftwards, but basically this just changes. So a change in price changes position within the slope, within the curve. But here it causes a shift. So there is a big difference between the two, right? So now we're going to be discussing the non-determinants of demand, right? So first you have the number of consumers. So a change in the number of consumers for a good would lead to a shift in the market demand curve for the good, right? So increase in the number of consumers for the good will shift the demand to the right. Decrease in the number of consumers for a good will shift the demand for the good to the left. So now we're going to be explaining a bit how this works. So I'm going to be just drawing a graph, right? So now we're going to be explaining. Here you have the price. Let's say it's in dollars, right? US dollars. Here you have the quantity. Okay. Okay. So now we have the demand curve. Okay, so you have the demand curve. This was once the demand curve, right? Let's say at this point, the price was $10. The quantity was, let's say, 5. Okay. And now, when you see that there are more customers, so the increase in customers, then the demand curve will shift to the left. what happens when the demand curve will shift to the left is that the price, okay, will actually eventually increase as the quantity is increasing. Or actually, no, the price can stay the same. But here you just see a shift of demand to the left. But if there is less customers buying, then you can see that demand will shift to the left. Okay. So this will happen. So here, let's say it becomes 2. Here it becomes, let's say, 7. Okay. So here you have P1, so that's the price. P1, the price does not change, but you can see all the quantities changing. So you have Q1, you have you have Q1, you have, let's say, sorry, here you have Q2, here you have Q3, let's say. Okay, so this is how it changes. So as you can see, that the price in this case is all the same because, again, it's a non-price determinant. Sorry, I got confused in the beginning. It's a non-price determinant. Okay. You can see the prices stay the same, but the quantity demand does not stay the same. So here we have D1, D2, D3. Okay. So this is it for the number of consumers, right? So here, the last step, increase in consumers leads to a rightward shift. Okay, so if you want, I'm just gonna change the color to make it just coordinate in your head a bit better. Then you have decrease in consumers leads to leftward shift. Okay, and these are both for the demand curve, right? So here you can underline rightward, leftward. Okay, so this is really it. Now we have income. So let's focus on that. So if you have income, as income increases, the demand for most goods will increase, okay? So most goods, we mean normal goods, such as, let's say cars, clothing, right? But the demand for inferior goods will decrease. Inferior goods, what are inferior goods? They are second-hand clothing, let's say cheap foods like canned foods. Okay, so you have all these things. So now we're going to be explaining, so inferior goods are, sorry, there's another O here, are of poor quality, would have, are of poor quality, which have higher quality substitutes, right? So they're poor quality. So basically, when there is an increase in income, what ends up happening is that for normal, so I'm going to do normal goods against inferior goods is here. Then we have inferior goods is
Okay.
actually inferior goods is actually here. Let's see. Okay, so for the normal goods, and now for the inferior goods. So let's say we already have, like, here we have price. Let's say the price in this case is in euros. So we have the price in euros. Price is in euros. Let's say you have quantity. And let's say of, let's say cars, here we'll say of second hand cars, like used cars. So now let's begin. So here we already have our demand curve. So we have our demand curve. We'll call both of these curves D1, D1. So when we have an increase in income, so when there's the increase in income, right? So now we're gonna show you what's gonna happen. So in this case, for the quantity of cars, the demand is gonna shift to the right. We're gonna call this D2. Okay. Then the demand for the second-hand used cars will shift to the left. Okay, so D2. And basically that's what's gonna happen. Okay, because these are inferior, these are normal goods. So what ends up happening is here you have, so here you have Q1, P1, here you have okay, here you have Q2, P2. So as you can see, there's also an increase in price, which is why I talked about increase in price as well. So you can also see the increase in price. Okay, so I'm just gonna do this here. So increase in price and increase in quantity, right? Whereas here you will see after the leftward shift, you'll have Q1, Q2, so you can see the decrease, P2, P1, so you can see the decrease, okay? So when there is an increase in income, what ends up happening is that price of normal goods increases as demand curve shifts to the right. But for the inferior goods, price of inferior goods decreases as demand curve shifts to the left. Okay, so this is really it. So I gave you this example. Okay, now we're going to be talking about the price of related goods. So you have two types of related goods. You have substitute goods and you have complements. So substitute goods are goods that satisfy similar wants and needs. Okay. So for example, you have soft drinks. You have for example, cola, and then you have, for example, another good that's like, let's say 7-Up, okay? So yeah, they like use them for one another. The increase in demand for one good will lead to the increase in demand for the other goods because again, they satisfy a similar want or need, right? But complements, they're two goods that are considered complements if they are consumed together. So the increase in the price of a good might lead to a decrease in the price of the complement. Okay, so this is basically what it actually ends up doing. So now we have changes in taste and preferences. So basically it affects the willingness of a consumer to purchase a good. So basically this is just really it's really just depends on like the consumer's tastes and preferences, right? It just really depends on that. So then you have future price expectations. If consumers expect that the price of a good will increase, so if they think that the price of the good will increase, they will buy more of it because they think that they need to buy it now before before it increases. So they think that they want to save money, so they want to save money. Thus increasing the demand for the good, right? Okay, so why? Because if they think that the price will increase, so I'm just gonna explain this down here. So if they think that the price will increase, what happens is that they will end up, so here you have price, here you have quantity, So you have your demand curve. So basically they think the price will increase. They end up buying even more of it. So this will be D2. This will be D1. They end up buying more of it. So what ends up happening is that at this rate, this is Q1, this will be Q2, Q2, you have P1, you have P2. As you can see, as quantity purchase increases, so quantity demand increases, so does price. So this is eventually what will happen. Okay, so this is what will happen. Then you have thus increasing the demand of the good. Similarly, if consumers expect the price of the good to decrease, so things get decreased, they will buy less of it and the demand will decrease. So if they think it's going to decrease, what will end up happening is that this will end up happening. So the demand curve will shift to the left. And what ends up happening here is that the quantity will end up decreasing, and so will the price. So P3, Q3, and then you have this happening. So this is really it for the price. So keep in mind for the price, you just have to think in a way how the demand will be affected. Basically, when the demand curve shifts to the right or when it shifts to the left. And that's really it. Just remember that when it is the price itself changing, then it's just the position within the curve, right? So it's just the position within the curve. So you have point A, you have point B, A, B. But when it's the non-price determinant of demand, then it will shift either right or either left. So it can either shift right or left. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you liked it. Bye-bye. Please like and subscribe so I can continue making these videos.